This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Welcome to Build It Baby. I'm Penelope Bent here with my amazing producer, Morgan Clymer, behind the scenes. And we're all about bold moves, big dreams, and creating big lives. So if you're a dreamer who's a doer and want to build a thriving business, career, or life, I think we've got some good info for you. So let's get into it. Let's build it, baby. So here's my question for you today. What is the obstacle? Think about that for a sec. What is the obstacle that you are experiencing in the process of either building your business, maybe you're wanting to make a big career move, or maybe a new lifestyle choice? Anytime you want to make a move or a change, by God, some obstacle pops up and just is big boulder right in the middle of your runway. So my question again is, what is your obstacle? So with that being said, here's a couple of ways you can start to think about the obstacle. And I think that being able to take a moment and really analyze, how big of a boulder is this? Is this something that I can tear down into pieces? Is it something that will require some compromise? What is the obstacle that is keeping me from making the next steps? Let's say that it's an obstacle. Every business person that I've ever spoken to when they just began, one of their biggest obstacles is where in God's green earth am I going to get the money to make this dream come true? And I think that can sometimes be one of the biggest obstacles that we'll ever encounter in our lives. Most of us are not. We don't have this gigantic savings account put aside just for going out and building our businesses at the time. Businesses and the idea of businesses, they come in from nowhere, out of nowhere. All of a sudden, you have an idea, and now you really want to try to make this happen, and you're asking yourself, where am I going to find the money? One of the things that I have found is that I know that a lot of folks, especially in the tech industry, they have angel investors and folks that, will jump in there, and Google will drop $56 million with a couple of folks because they created some technology and believe that this software solution is going to be the end all. But that doesn't necessarily mean that happens to all of us out there. What I think needs to happen is that you tear the money problem down based on segments of where you want to go and how you want to get there and how fast you want to achieve your goal. I've noticed that in my experience, sometimes when I've got a large chunk, let's say, to put on into advertising, and all of a sudden, you're given the opportunity to run a series of television commercials. And this happened when I had my modeling and photography studio in Northern California. I think it was in the late 80s or early 90s. I ended up spending $20,000 and running a commercial on a local television station. And I'll be damned if the morning that the commercials were supposed to begin, a war broke out. And the whole focus of the news cycle was the television was, 100% on what was going on with this war. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't really go back and mention to the TV station, I just blew $20,000 and no one is ever going to see my television commercial. And, I don't have that kind of a pocketbook to drum up another 20. So I think that at times when money is the challenge, if you can break the money obstacle down into smaller parts. Take a look at what your first plan was. What were you planning on doing with the money? Everyone says, oh, I have to have, this advertising. Okay, well, if you don't have the money, then what is the next plan? What is the plan for possibly going after more of an organic approach? Maybe it's an approach to doing more social media. Maybe it's more networking, getting involved in going to the local Chamber of Commerce and meeting potential clients that way. Is the obstacle going to be the deal breaker for you? How much do you want to build this company, or how much do you want to make this change in your life that you are willing to tackle the obstacle from a much more smaller chunks? So starting to take a look at it, look at what are my other alternatives? What are other ways? What are creative ways that I can achieve my same goal, but I don't have to do it with that gigantic chunk of change? The other thing that I think is really important when you're just getting going is it's terrifying to know that you're taking, the savings from family or whatever your nest egg was, and you're going to throw it all out there on advertising, or all out there on marketing, or all out there with exactly this, very high overhead that you think that you absolutely have to have. It may be that the obstacle is really the gift, that the obstacle is trying to get you to slow down and to say to yourself, let me rework this. Let me come up with an alternative to a way that we could do this with what I feel is within my means. And I think you will be incredibly surprised that you will end up getting to the same obstacle. Get through the obstacle at the same time had you had, all the monies in the world to make plan A work. I don't think plan B or plan C is ever a bad move. I think it's really important to look at those more conservative financial moves in the beginning, because there's so many mistakes that can be made, so many pitfalls, so many, if I listen to all of the specialists out there, I would have never, ever made it through the gauntlet to actually succeed in a business that could actually, support my family. Because I think as much as folks out there are specialists in their field of advertising, marketing, or whatever the case is, no one is more of a specialist to building your business than you are. So my suggestion is to take the obstacle, break it down, look at more options, your plan B, your plan C, and attack it from, okay, where can I cut back? What can we do in phase 2? Phase 1 does not have to be as gigantic as you may have thought it needed to be on the first run out, the first pass. You may be able to cut that down, and money may not be quite as big of an obstacle as you really thought that it was. The other thing I think is really important is, how bad do I want this? Am I willing to downsize? For example, I had a friend who had just a really amazing, thriving nursery. But they were having some financial problems. They owned all this property. They had this nursery, plant nursery, and were very, very successful in a very, very unique town in Northern California. And they also had a beautiful home a few miles away from the nursery. So they were just in a real pinch and were, terrified that they were going to lose the property. The sales were not what they needed to be. They needed to have money to buy inventory and so on and so forth. So I remember sitting down with them one evening, we were having a glass of wine and they were sharing their woes and, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And, they were reaching out for investors, but it didn't look like the investment capital was going to come through and we're going to lose our ass, blah, 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 blah. And I suggested, why don't you consider putting your home up for sale? You have a beautiful, beautiful piece of property. It had, ponds and it was gorgeous. Why don't you build a smaller version of your home on the land that you have the nursery on? It doesn't have to be right on top of each other. There was enough acreage there that you could have a beautiful little cottage over here and be able to run the company. That would give you immediate capital. And so my question really was to them is, would you consider downsizing? And to my surprise, they were absolutely adamant that that would not possibly be a possibility. Their ego was tied up in having a home. I have a successful business. We have a home. We have several beautiful, cars, and we're putting in a pool, and so on and so forth. Well, you can only imagine what the end result was. The business went into dire difficulties. I don't know that it was ever sold for a major profit. Eventually, the stress, destroyed their relationship. So not only at the end of the day did we lose the nursery, the home, but we blew up the entire family. So I think there is a moment when you're building something that you really need to get honest with yourself. What are you willing to give up to thrive? What are you willing to scale down? What part of your ego do you need to talk to and realize that, you're a business owner. It doesn't always run smoothly. So there may be times when you might need to sell that collector's car because you needed the money. And this is, I'm a real believer. If you haven't hit a pawn shop, you haven't lived. Because, pawn shops at one time, when I was really, really in financial straits, thank the Lord that I could take, my jewelry in, and I was able to get the money to keep things moving forward during, these different financial crashes that go on throughout our lifetimes, and was able to keep things going. Now, unfortunately, I was never a big believer in credit, and so that was definitely difficult, which I would never advise anyone to do it the way I did. But at the time, what did I have to do? Was I really wearing all of that fine jewelry at the moment? No. Was I able to go into the pawn shop and get the money that I needed and then turn around, cover everything that I needed to cover? And at the end of the period of time when things swung back up again, I was able to take the money out of the business and go, I remember the day that I was able to go in and get my jewelry back. You do what you have to do if you want to keep going and keep the business thriving, keep moving toward your goal. You're going to have these obstacles. They're going to pop up. Let's say that you're in the middle of looking for a new career and you've had 4 or 5 interviews and not one company you can't make it past the 3rd interview. What is the obstacle? Well, I don't know. They're interviewing you. So how are you responding? Are you enthusiastic? By the 3rd or 4th company, are you sounding like, they're all full of crap and you just know that this is going to be a no for you at the end of the day? What are you bringing to the table? What is your participation in the obstacle? Are you helping to create this gigantic obstacle because your voice sounds like you're half asleep and you don't have any faith in the system anymore, so you don't think you're going to get hired, and now the auto insurance is due in a month and you have no idea without some quick employment how you're going to handle that. So I think you have to really look at what is the obstacle. If you're in the middle of making a change and you're making a move, You're going to run into obstacles, big, small, medium-sized obstacles. And I think it's really important to just know that you have the answers. You can maybe make a small downsize. You've got the confidence and the guts to be able to want it badly enough that you're willing to make the changes and make the small adjustments that you might need to make to be able to tear the obstacle down from gigantic to doable. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. All I can do is share some of what my knowings are. And my knowings are, one, whatever changes that are needing to be made, you've got what it takes to make them. Really look at how much you want the business. How much do you want to make the change? The more you want it, the smaller the obstacle will become. I give you my word on that. Want it, and the answers will come. Want it, and you'll start thinking. Wanting, and you'll stop looking at the obstacles, and you'll start looking at the answers. The answer is always there. The obstacle seems to be bigger than we are from time to time. So it's really, really important to step back, have confidence, know that you've got this, and look at the obstacle and start getting creative. How can you tear it down? How can you make this a smaller, doable process? You have everything that you need. It's just a matter of stepping back, having confidence, knowing you got this, knowing that you might have to make a few adjustments, but they may only be temporary. It doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that you go live in your car for a month. I'm just suggesting that you make the small little, and they're not sacrifices. They're not sacrifices. They're just adjustments to your lifestyle or downsizes temporarily that you can make. I mean, when you really think about it, how much money do you spend on going out, after, on having dinners out, or how often, how much money you're spending over here that, is not something that's going to break your heart that you could do without. I'll always look at these adjustments as being just that. They're just small adjustments. You can get back to that, that heavy buying, if that's really what is the most important to you. But I think that's my final thought. What is the most important piece of this? Is it important to build the business? Is it important that you can't take it any longer, that you've got to make a career change? So that means that we're going to have to tighten our belt a little bit. I'm going to start out at the bottom here. Is it going to be that it's time for retirement? And, we need to get rid of this gigantic house. I mean, the kids are gone. We still see the vacuum marks in the rooms every day. So maybe that's what the downsize is. It's time to really get busy with it and live within the means that we have. Whatever that is, I know that wanting to make the change, wanting to build the company, wanting to have the life that you so deserve, this is attainable. And it's there for you. And the last thing I wanted to mention is, once you've taken a look at the obstacle and you have dissected it and you've reworked it and you've got a new plan, then shift from the obstacle and start looking at what is the plan? What is the build? What is it that you see? Because whatever you focus on is where you will end up. If you continually focus on this obstacle, it will destroy you. It will take you out of the game. But if you know you can tear it down, you can break it up, and then you start refocusing on the goal, on where you want to be, what you want that to look like, and keep that vision in the forefront all the time, then you will achieve your goal and you will thrive doing it. And the other thing too is you will find that you need a lot less to survive and to be happy. I mean, it is amazing when I look back at how many designer handbags I had at one time. I mean, you can only have one damn handbag at a time, right? So there's always times to look at those things and make adjustments from time to time, should you need to. Okay, well, that's my knowing on obstacles today. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn it over to my great producer, Morgan Clymer, and hear what our listener question is from the inbox.
Okay, so today's question is from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. They did share that they're from Philadelphia, but here is what they sent in. I was just abruptly terminated. I was told my position had been eliminated, and I found out my replacement was a close friend of my manager. I am heartbroken. I did a really great job, met all my quotas, never had a problem with a team member. I just don't understand why. I am so angry. Should I seek legal advice? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I am so sorry that you are going through this experience. I cannot tell you, in working in my recruiting company, how many of these stories that I have heard. And in your heart that you did a really, really great job. I know that you mentioned here that you found out that, your replacement was the buddy or the good friend of your managers. And you just, you don't understand the why. Anytime anything like this, those heartbreaking moments when you know that your product is really great and yet, maybe a client is not interested, or you lost an account that you really wanted, or you've been terminated from a job that you really want, or perhaps, in life you've been told by, the man that you love or the person that you love that it's time for them to move on. I think that through all the heartbreak and all the pain of that, as painful as all of that emotion is, that at the end of the day, there'll be a moment when you look back and you realize that that was the best thing that could have ever happened to you. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but I remember when I was really, really little, and I remember my mother saying to me, when one door closes, another one will open. And I remember in the early days, my husband at the time and I were going to become one of the first male and female insurance agents for Farmers Insurance. Or no, not Farmers, State Farm Insurance. And at the very, very, very last minute, we were to have a insurance agency up north, and the very last minute, that position was denied. We'd already packed up from Los Angeles. We were headed to Northern California, and I was 8 months pregnant at the time, and that shift, that change, that heartbreak, I'll never forget when my husband got the call from the president of the company, and it was like, wait a minute, we're already packed. We have the moving company. We're headed north. And he said, he was sorry. There wasn't anything that he could do about that. And with that, we both sat down and said, okay, what's the next plan? What's plan B? And that is actually how the photographic company was created, because we had both been doing a lot of photography and shooting in the Los Angeles area. We were actually working on a book that we were putting together. And so, we both decided, wow, let's open a studio in Northern California. We're headed that way. We knew of a building next door to a gift shop building that we had owned years before. And we approached the owner of the building and let him know that, we were interested in opening another business there. Would he give us the whole back end of this building, which was an absolute disaster? And he ended up giving it to us for a song because we went in, cleaned it up, cleared it out, reconstructed it, and built our first photographic studio that was such a success. And I ended up staying in that industry for over 40 years. So I know it feels really crappy right now, and I know that you're angry at these folks that have created an unjust for you, but I promise you that now is the time to start thinking about the other ideas that you've had. I know that when this happens, you've been given some kind of a severance. I know that you've got insurance for a while. So I really encourage you to take a moment and look at this unjust or this terrible thing that's happened to you and find the morsel of brilliance that's in it. There's a gift here. It doesn't feel like it, but I know there is. There's another direction. The universe just kicked you in the ass and went, you know what? They don't deserve you over here. You're great at what you do. What about over here? It's been an idea in the back of your mind. There's an answer there. There's a directional marker. There's an indicator. There's something that the universe is trying to steer you in that direction. So anytime negative things happen to you and you get kicked in the ass like this, as painful as it is, remember that it's not personal, even though it feels personal. But if you can shift and look at it as a gift, like, praise God, I really wasn't that wild about it anyhow. I was fighting to help make sure that my coworkers were paid, whatever your disturbances were within that position at the time. Maybe now it's the time. Maybe now it's the time to look outside of the box. If it's a partner that's decided that they want to move forward with a different life, I'm a strong believer in life with someone is only as long as it's good for. If it's not good anymore, then it's not a healthy environment. And that just means that there's a better partner out there. There's a better life for you out there. There's something great that you probably would have never changed on your own, but you needed a little bit of a nudge. And I'll bet you one night you'll wake up and go, you know what? In the back of my mind, I've been thinking about making a change. And I probably would have never done it at this particular time, but I'm ready now. It's given me the nudge that I needed. And also remember, don't let some other individual or some situation take your confidence away. Remember that you do have everything that you need, that you have been provided some amazing gifts. Don't let anyone steal that piece of you. You have to hold on to you really, really tight and know that you are all that you are great. And my attitude is, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Don't let this experience minimize the who you are, the who that you are, and the who that the universe created you to be. Don't forget everything that you are, everything that you can be, and everything that you bring to the table. So with that, I know there's a better job out there for you. I know that there's someone that will appreciate your work. And I am sorry that they will, I'm sure, sense your loss eventually. And you are actually been tossed out and you are headed on a new, fresh path. And that's exactly where you need to be. Thanks for tuning in to Build It Baby. We're here every Tuesday, bringing you real talk, big ideas, and heart-led strategy. Don't forget to subscribe, share, or send us your boldest question by going to penelopebent.com. I'd love to hear from you. So again, thank you so much. Hey, until next time, keep dreaming, keep building, and most importantly, keep believing. You got this, baby. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashin and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or career, you're building a bold life.